Well, good evening, everyone. Breaking news here is some of you may have seen already, some of you may have not seen. The U.S. Has just completed a strike against Iran just in the last, it's been announced just in the last few minutes. This is breaking news. We really don't know a whole lot. More will come out, I'm sure. So if you have information, send it to me, drop it in the Facebook link, and we'll get it. Or you can send it to me other information. Send it to me in my WhatsApp for those of you who may be sending it. Yes, Shelly, I am live. Matter of fact, I will reply to you. Yes. There we go. So let me tell you what we have so far. We were hearing reports earlier of an earthquake near the Fordo nuclear site, and that raised a little bit of some bells with me that seemed a little bit unusual for me to see that, okay, there's an earthquake there as well. So let me get to some of the stuff I'm going to show you guys. Let me get to the webcam here. All right. So we have Trump announced on Truth Social, we have completed our very successful attack on 3 nuke sites in Iran, including Fordo, Natanz, and how do you pronounce that? I've got Jeff on the line here. How do you pronounce that last one? Fahan? Do you know how that's pronounced?
Uh, it's Fahan, I believe.
Fahan.
It's
Okay.
spelled with an I. Yeah.
Okay. Hold on one second. I'm typing to somebody. All right. I am closing that. All right. So, a full payload of bombs. Now, I said this earlier today that the B2s they shifted off. They had turned off the refuelers, had turned off their transponders. It looked like they were northwest of Hawaii. They were headed out towards, it looked like Anderson, but also headed in that general direction. But I'd also said it looked like they were heavy. Remember, I'd stated that. So that told me that they were full of these bunker buster bombs. And sure enough, that's what Trump is now confirming. A full payload of bombs was dropped on the primary site, Fordo. All planes are safely on their way home now. Congratulations to our great American warriors. There is not another military in the world that could have done this. Now is the time for peace. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So, just a shameless plug here. This is why you guys need to subscribe. This is why you guys need to be part of the private channel. This is why you guys need to watch Jeff and I. And the other guests that I'm going to have on. This is why you guys need a shameless plug. I know it's shameless, but this is why I'm telling you guys this. Jeff and I told you 2 days ago that this total 2 weeks thing could possibly be a ruse to trick the Iranians or to kind of lull them to sleep or something along those lines. That was a very good possibility. And I also told you earlier today, I was giving you intel that the B-2s were on the way. They looked like they were heavy. They looked like they were carrying ordnance. That is not something that I came up with, but we gather deep intel on this channel, and we're going to bring you things that other places just aren't. Why? Because we don't have an agenda. That's the bottom line. I don't have an agenda. I want to tell you guys the truth. I want to tell you guys what's going on. So, some of the other stuff we see is we're getting a bunch of reports out about jamming, cell phone outages, explosives, and that's because some of these other aircraft that we have in our disposal, they're out there and they're jamming the stuff. You've got a lot of aircraft that I'm not going to get into what we've got. Rivet joint and just all sorts of stuff that we've got that some of you guys may have never heard of. And I have friends that actually used to fly rivet joint. So we got a lot of assets that are probably jamming them, so that when we fly these B2s in, we don't just fly them in there by themselves. We fly other assets in, and we jam all the radar sites. We take them down, just to add a safety feature, so to speak. So what else? GPS disruptions are being reported in several regions of Iran. Electronic warfare on display. So yeah, and there we go. Now Drudge is finally reporting it. He wasn't reporting it when I had started the live stream. I want to make sure you guys can get this. I want to make sure you can see it in my window. Make sure, Jeff, you see that. You see that in the window. Okay. So yeah, Drudge is finally. You always got to love it when you see the little Drudge siren. So Trump's now the war president. So USA attacks Iran, B-2 bombers. Again, we were telling you this several hours ago. So one of the things that I get into, I've got, this is Project Owl. It's one of my data gathering sites that I use. And so let's see what we've got. Trump will be giving an address to the nation at 10 o'clock Eastern. So looks like we've got about a couple hours here at the White House regarding the operation in Iran. So let's see what else we got. I'm going to go down here and look at, and by the way, guys, this is kind of what it's going to be during breaking news like this. Chaos, all right? I'm not going to know my you-know-what from a hole in the ground. I'm not going to know whether to scratch it or wind my watch. So it's just going to be, this is not ABC or CNN where I'm going to have reporters to point to. I'm just going to be winging it. And so if y'all like that, great. If you don't, tune out. I don't care. So there is a air aviation asset up here. Well, first of all, let's look at the Iranian speculation. See what's going on. Here we go. This is what I was looking for. So here are the earthquakes. No, there were some yesterday, Jeff. You were right. This was the earthquakes yesterday.
Right.
But right, yeah. And by the way, if you've got virgin eyes and you don't want to see cussing on Twitter or some of the sites, yeah, then look away, because again, you would have never made it in the early church. You would have had a heart attack. 3 sites were bombed. Here we go. Here's the aviation. So this is aviation intelligence here. This is latest intel from the aviation world. And I'm trying to scan here to see if there's anything of interest. This is one of the ways that I track the refuelers. When I was telling you about the refuelers turning their transponders off, this is one of the ways that we knew this was going on, because these are aviation nerds, and they sit there and they watch all this stuff. Huey, look at that. Gotta love a good old Huey, don't you, Jeff? Gotta love me a Huey. Oh, the years we flew in a Huey. Whoop, 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 whoop. Okay, so let's go back to Iran-Israel news to see if there's nothing new there. And then in the speculation. Yeah, okay, so here's one thing that some of you may have seen, some of you may not. Jeff and I know this very well. This is the Pentagon Pizza report. Yeah, I'm going to turn you up so the people can hear. Say that again, Jeff.
Very important, the pizza report. I know people laugh at it and scoff at it, but it is a correlation between usually what's going on at the Pentagon
Yes.
and other places, and how much pizza is being ordered for the late night meetings or all day meetings where they can't get out to get any food.
Yeah, because
it's actually a real thing.
Yeah, it's a real thing. In the places that you and I have worked, we were never able to order pizza. We didn't have that luxury. But these big wigs have the luxury, and so if you can see here, you can see it's very active. And anytime you see this big spike in the pizza, there's actually two Papa John's. There's one in Alexander, and then there's one in something city. What is it called? Something Crystal City. There's a Papa John's, and then there's a Domino's. And anytime you see this spike in pizza, right? That what it means is that people are not able to make it home for dinner when normally they could make it home for dinner, and they're having to work late on projects or something that's abnormal, and so they order out. And you would think, and how long is this? This was first noticed what, in the Clinton years? We first,
Yes.
yeah, during Kosovo and the Balkans, I believe, we first started noticing this. And you would think they would have figured this out by now, but it's still a deal, and it's been a deal. It happened when we attacked in Afghanistan in 2000, in October of 2001. It happened in 2003. It's a deal, and so you guys need to remember that anytime you see somebody talking about this is actually a real thing. Okay, let's go back to Twitter and see what we see here. Matter of fact, I'm just going to do a search on Iran. And like I said, I can't vouch for everything you guys are going to see. I mean, who knows? I'm just looking for the latest intel. It looks like we don't have a whole lot of intel right now. I do know one thing. It's definitely we've ramped up the temperature a little bit there. But so the latest thing we have is we know Trump's going to address the nation at 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. We also know that, what were you saying, Jeff, about the French were on board, correct?
Yeah, the French came out with a statement literally a minute or two before the announcement of the strike that Iran was a serious threat that needed to be dealt with. So, I think that right there was the French coming on board that this was going to happen. I don't think that was a coincidence on the timing at all.
Yeah, I agree.
They knew what was going on. They had to have known what was going on. And just let me point out one other thing. A lot of people today have been focusing on the B-2s that were moving to Guam or to and from Guam.
Right.
That appears to be a distraction.
Okay, explain.
I think people were focused on that, giving the impression that we were not ready for a strike.
Right.
Especially based on Trump's own words saying, give me 2 weeks and I'll decide what
Yep.
to do.
And that's exactly what you and I talked about.
There was a lot of focus on the B-2s that were moving in and out of Guam during the day today. That was a distraction.
Right, they just flew straight through.
That's right.
And that could be. So one of the things that was pointed out, real quick, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I want to piggyback on that. One of the things that was pointed out was that the actual straight shot from Missouri to Iran is actually over the Atlantic. Okay, when you take the Great Circle route. So why were they going through the Pacific? And that may have made it to want to look like they were taking the long way home, or the long way, so that it looked like they're positioning them in Guam or positioning them at Anderson. By the way, Jeff was stationed at Anderson, correct? Or
I have been there. I was actually stationed with the Navy on Nimitz Hill.
Okay.
During my service in Guam.
You were at Guam, but you weren't. That's right. You weren't at Anderson, but you were at Guam.
Right. But
so you know a little bit about this area.
I do, but I think the assumption was that these planes were going to be moved from Guam to Diego Garcia, where they were going to be staged.
And that's exactly. I mean, I'll be honest. That's what I thought.
That's what I thought too.
And yeah, and I think everybody pretty much thought that. And so it was a pretty good feint. It was a good ruse. Because I mean, that's exactly what I thought, because that's usually what happens. And you can see on the screen here, there's a really good image of a B-2 being refueled. Now, did that happen on this particular mission? We don't know, but that's what happens at night. And one of my caseworkers at the VA actually for neurology was a refueler. Matter of fact, I think I even told you about her. One of my neurotech nurses, she actually was a refueler for 20 years. So her and I had some good stories about that Wizzo at the F4 that had his hind end frozen to the canopy. You remember that one?
I do.
That's another story, guys, for another time. Needless to say, he tried to do something and it didn't work out real good. But anyway, so that's a pretty cool shot for any aviation buffs out there. But no, so I think everybody has pretty much been caught off guard that it was today. I would have thought maybe tomorrow. And one other thing I was looking at also, Jeff, you and I have used this a lot in the past. I was looking at solar and lunar data. I was looking a lot at the lunar tables to see, when the next new moon was going to be, and if maybe they were looking at that, because it was kind of coincidental to me that when Trump said 2 weeks, well, that just coincided with the new moon, and and I was thinking, well, maybe that's why he's just happened to mention that, because it's in the new moon phase, and maybe that's it. But not that as much of a deal as it used to be back in our day. But so it's interesting. But we'll see where this goes. But bottom line is, we're now, not necessarily in a war with Iran, but it depends on how you define war, I guess, right? I mean,
yeah. I mean, and I agree with you. I think the question is, what happens now?
Right.
What is their response going to be, if any? I know they've talked a big game, but they've done that in the past and have done very little. They may not even have the capability at this point to do much. Is this going to be a one-off, or is this going to be a continuing strikes? Obviously, they're going to have to do some battle damage checks and see have they accomplished what they wanted to.
Right.
And I think if they haven't, there's going to be another strike at some point. But here's an interesting thing. I know a lot of people are saying, and it's true, that they kind of got that this was a great ruse, and I think that's important. The first time this happened, which was when the initial strike started last week, they were absolutely caught with their pants down.
Right.
With this, to me, they kind of were, but I actually believe they knew that this was coming. And here's a point: they could not move those sites. Those sites were there. They can't move them, and they were going to be hit.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, you always want to have a little bit of a surprise, and that's what we did. But I don't know how much of a difference that really would have made going forward, whether we would have struck them tonight or next week.
Right. Right. They probably built the sites knowing that one day they were going to be attacked anyway. They had to have, it's not like we build our sites thinking, okay, we're going to harden them against terrorism or whatever, but, and you're going to harden them against nuclear strike or whatever. But, what are the odds that somebody's going to really do? They knew that eventually Israel or us were going to try to attack, or were going to attack. And so, they live on borrowed time anyway, and they have been.
Oh, right. I agree, Nelson. I think it's going to be also, it might be difficult for us to assess how much damage we actually did.
Right.
A site that's buried underground hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of feet. I mean, that's going to be challenging for us to figure out, did we do what we wanted to do?
So here,
we need to strike it again.
So here's interesting. FIRMS, which is the Fire Information Resource Management System from NASA, it is actually showing plumes now from Modus.
Okay.
Yeah, you can see that.
That's
You can see that on the screen now. Um,
that is somewhat significant.
yeah. Matter of fact, let me unlock this and um, I'm gonna. I can move this. Hold on a second, guys. I think I can. There we go. Editing in real time. There we go. All right. Yeah, now I can move that around. Okay. Yeah, that's significant because you've got some pretty good thermal heat signatures there. And that came out of OSINT speculation there. Um, yeah, that's Fordo, but that's showing up. No, that's not working. So let's see. So real quick, I guess there's no time like the present. Would you like to give everybody a rundown? Do you feel comfortable giving everybody a rundown on that article you were talking about with Khomeini?
Yeah, so there's an interesting article from a few people that have actually sat down and spoke to him. He is very reclusive kind of guy, and there's actually, I mean, there's since he came into power in 1989, he has never left the country.
Wow.
He did his last trip outside of Iran was to North Korea in 1989. So he is an isolated person. But so the article basically gets into his mindset, and the mindset on him is that he is not a guy that's going to cave, and he's not a guy that like Gaddafi or Saddam did, where they just cut and run, or they even talk about the Shah.
Right.
And that's why they have so much disrespect for the Shah. They felt that not only his father, but the Shah himself, they cut and ran. And he is not likely to do that. So he's the kind of guy that will go down with the ship. And it's my curiosity now is going to be, what is their response going to be to this? This was their worst case scenario. And like you said, and I agree with you, they had to have known that this day was probably going to come. I mean, they're not a stupid people. People may not like them. They may not like their politics and the way they govern, but they're not ignorant. And I think they knew this day was coming. I'm curious to see what their response is going to be. And more importantly, is this a one-off for us?
Well,
are we going to continue to hammer their sites or even hammer other sites in fear that we might be under a retaliatory strike at some point in the next hours or days?
yeah, and that's the one thing. Yeah, and so are they? And you know what's interesting is the oil markets are closed. So what's going to happen in the Strait? You see, Trump just sent out Fordo is gone. So
yeah, I mean, he's going to be grandstanding on this, and it's going to be a lot of chest thumping and the typical Trump stuff. He's a winner.
Yeah.
He wants to be a winner. And just his rhetoric in the last week or so, from we're not involved in this isn't our deal, to we, as in we, control the skies. When at that point, the United States was really not involved, at least militarily, as far as flying any kind of strike missions. I'm sure we were providing the Israelis with intelligence and things of that nature, but we were not flying any missions there. But he was saying, like, we have control of the skies.
Right.
So when things are going good, I believe he wants to jump on board and also take credit for this.
Yeah.
And I think you'll see that in the next day or so. I'm curious to see what he's going to say on his upcoming address to the nation.
Yeah, it's so we have some Iranian revolutionary, some IRGC affiliated Telegram channels are now saying, are declaring America has officially entered the war. So
I think that's a safe assessment. Yes.
Yeah. So Jennifer let me see. Jennifer, just hold on, Jen. I'm trying to get to your. Uh, so that is a good question. My sister from another mother, known her since she was kindergartner. I'm sorry, I just dated us both. So will this bombing of nuclear facilities create a health issue like Chernobyl? So that's a good question. So let's talk about that. Um, so the bombing of the reactor could that they bombed that could create a problem. I have seen several people um, talking about some nuclear scientists actually talking about some issues of bombing the uranium sites. You know, it wouldn't create a problem like Chernobyl because
No, it would not.
Chernobyl. Matter of fact, this is another plug. It's not my shameless plug, and I know I speak for Jeff as well. If you've never seen the miniseries Chernobyl on HBO, you gotta watch it. Oh, Jennifer, I'm sorry, I did call you out. She's younger than me. No, she's not. I'm just joking. I love you, but if you've never seen Chernobyl, it's excellently done. It's very accurate. It's true to history. It's a great miniseries. I believe it's 4 or 5 episodes or something along this something like that. But that was a different process because that was a meltdown. That was fully enriched uranium. Um, this is 60% enriched uranium. It's only 400 kilograms, and it's spread out all over. A lot of what would happen would be stuff would cave in on it. It would seal it, but it doesn't mean there would not be some radiation, radioactive particles in the dust spread out, but it wouldn't be, um, totally contained. So there could be some radioactive, like a dirty bomb type situation, but it would be mostly, it would be mostly contained to that area. What say you?
I totally agree. I mean, I'm not a nuclear expert by any means, but from what I know of the site and what they're doing there, I agree with you. There could be some radiation. There could be some radioactive leaks. I think it would be very small scale, but just by the nature of the strike, to actually collapse the mountain on itself is going to result in a lot of the radiation not escaping. It's going to be buried deep on the ground. That's why they put that site there.
Right,
It wasn't
Luana.
a
Yeah,
coincidence.
yeah. Like Luana said, it's not like a mushroom cloud. If you've seen Chernobyl, when the
No,
meltdown happened, it actually blew the graphite rods out. There was an explosion outward. Okay, all this stuff is already buried deep in ground, and so the initial explosion outward may toss some stuff out, but most of this stuff is made to penetrate. So yeah, there could be some radiation. Now, as we talked about in our interview, one of the things that we are kind of speculating, and now that we've got a couple of other things that Jeff and I have speculated about, is that number one, they could use, and I'm not saying they're going to, I'm not saying it's a done deal, but a possibility is that they know they're never going to enrich this stuff. They've got it. We believe they only enriched it for like a threat. I don't believe they were ever going to pursue a nuclear weapon. I just don't, and neither does Jeff. I believe that they were doing it just to say, given a bargaining chip. You know,
absolutely. It
uh,
was a bargaining chip. That's why they did it. And it was a good bargaining chip because it got people's attention, that's for sure. Um, you go back to 2015 in the JCPOA, which was a very verifiable agreement with inspectors on the ground. And there's an interesting article in the Jerusalem Post, of all places, that talks about the dilemma. This was, of course, before this just happened, about Trump waiting for 2 weeks and why that would not be a good idea. So it's a very interesting read. Of course, now we're actually past that now, but a lot of what they were talking about really makes a lot of sense with how things have turned out, at least at this point.
Yeah, we have 4 more tankers headed eastbound over the Conus, and I would imagine that this is to receive those coming back. That's what I assume, that these tankers they're starting the Congo line to come back to receive these 9. Apparently, there were 9 B2s from what I have seen. So the other possibility is, and Jeff and I talked about this, that maybe this was causing some of our hesitation, is now that we know these guys have hypersonics, we have a lot of bases within that range of the Fatah hypersonic missile. Jeff, you know the assets there better than I do, so go ahead and break down those assets for the people.
The assets that we
what assets do we have within the range of the Fatah?
Well, there's the fleet headquarters in Bahrain. There's the big El Uda, I'm not sure if that's how exactly it's pronounced, base, which is in, I believe, Qatar.
Qatar, yeah.
There's another base in the UAE, which is, I know several people that have actually been there. It's a very large base. So we have forces in Jordan.
Yep.
We have forces in Iraq still, and even in Syria. Even though they've pulled out about 1,000 of the 2,000 guys that were there, we still have 2 bases in Syria at this time. There's multiple bases that are within easy striking range of Iranian, and not even the longer range stuff. Yeah. You're talking right across the Persian Gulf, a lot closer than striking Tel Aviv or Haifa, which gives them more options. But, Nelson, we talked about this a little bit earlier today. The Iranians have not launched a single missile towards the Israelis in the last 24 hours.
Real quick, this is from Iranian media. Iran has evacuated the 3 nuclear sites for some time now, and there will be no radioactive material. This is from Iranian media.
Okay.
If
you believe what they're saying.
If you believe that, yeah.
And, also what we've been talking about, we know they had the highly enriched, it was enriched up to 60%?
60%, right.
There's, who knows where this stuff is?
Right.
I mean, they have had plenty of time. If they wanted to move it, they could have moved it.
Sure.
For sure by now.
I would have. I mean, it's a very mountainous country with a lot of caves. It's a massive cave system. I mean, anybody who's ever been in that part of the world knows that it's, tens of thousands of cave systems all throughout. And, it's probably not even there. So, just, who knows? So, U.S. military now briefing troops that its strike on Iran will likely result in counterstrikes on bases and facilities in the Middle East and likely activate Iran and other foreign terrorist organizations, FTOs, cells abroad, including the U.S., to conduct strikes against U.S. persons and facilities, according to the briefing I obtained.
And that's coming from who, Nelson?
Ken Klipperstein. So that is on my Israel-Iran news out of my Project Al-Osint community.
Well,
but that's exactly what. So real quick, my wife is scheduled to go to Texas, and that's been one of our topics. As you well know, this has been one of our topics of conversation among the family about these FTOs, and would it be safe to travel? Are they going to activate sleeper cells? And you and I both have had this conversation, and so let's have it amongst the people. We believe that this sleeper cell deal is way overblown. This talk, the talk of sleeper cells in the country is overblown. I believe it's been a red herring for both politicians, both parties. Having worked in that you and I both worked in this sector. You and I in the military, and then you as a police officer. Uh, we believe it's a more of a. I mean, not saying that it's not real. Don't get me wrong. Please do not hear us out. Don't get us wrong. We know that there is this stuff in our country, but we believe it's not behind every bush. Okay.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Totally agree with you on that.
So,
Would I
but
dismiss it totally?
do we dismiss
No.
it totally? No. Do we? This is going to be one of the things. You guys, we may need to take extra precautions, and I'm sure things are going to get. The administration will take extra precautions. You're probably going to see the terrorism threat level go up. You're going to see extra security at the airports. You're going to need to allow, if you are traveling, honey, you're going to need to allow extra time at the airport. Probably you're going to need to increase that by 50%. You know. So, okay, we just have a text here from, let's see what we got. We got some updates here. Okay, yeah, this is from the Jerusalem Post. Let's back it out. Yep. Trump announces U.S. successfully attacked Iranian nuke sites. And there we go. Yeah, from the Jerusalem Post.
That's a pretty quick damage assessment. You know,
Yeah.
if it literally happened an hour or two ago,
Yeah.
I mean, I you know,
Yes. Good question. If the material could have been moved already, could Trump's all decide in 2 weeks, giving them time to move it in order to save face for them? That's very possible. It's this. There's things that happen in this world that would just blow you guys' mind. I mean, the stuff that happens behind the scenes, guys, we could tell you stories.
hey Nelson,
Yeah.
I just want to kind of expand upon what you were talking about. You know, the terrorist threat in this country. I think way more likely than that is something going down in Europe or South America.
Yeah.
Against Israeli interests directly.
Yeah.
The Iranians, they know that a major terrorist strike inside the U.S. is going to be met with massive force.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they're not going to retaliate against U.S. forces. I am a little bit skeptical that they will. I'm not saying it's not going to happen.
Right.
I don't know. That is a huge line that they have to decide. The Ayatollah has to decide now, okay, do we want to cross that line? Because, maybe this is a one-off strike.
Right.
We're done. We took these sites out. We said we were going to do it.
Yeah.
This is not really,
maybe we did what we did it to shut Bibi up.
Right. The Israelis are doing a pretty good job on their own taking care of things. And which is interesting, does this kind of make the Israeli strikes at this point like, okay, if your goal was to
matter of fact,
destroy their nuclear sites.
Matter of fact, here it is. Deputy Political Director of the Iranian Broadcasting Corporation. If Trump's words are true, we did not suffer a major blow because the materials have been evacuated.
Look at that. Almost like we saw into the future.
I think so. Hey, there we are.
Right. Now, so I just to kind of finish up on the point that we were talking about real quick.
Yeah.
If Netanyahu's reason for this operation since last Friday was to eliminate Iran's nuclear capabilities, let's say that's been done, right?
Right.
The strikes have been done.
Then we
They've
should
been
stop.
bombing them for 9 days. Should that not be the end of the Israeli strikes then, right?
It should be.
But what we talked about earlier is I really believe that a lot of this is about regime change. I think they're going to be disappointed. And at what point are the Israelis going to look a little ridiculous if they just continue to bomb them. I think what they're going to say is that they want to take out their ballistic missiles and their production capabilities, because that is also a threat to them. I think that's where they're going to go with this.
So
is they're going to say, we're going to continue this until we make sure that their long-range missile threat has been eliminated.
So interesting. Somebody just posted this. OSET Technical posted this. It said, in context, 5 years ago, after killing Soleimani in Iraq, the event that eventually set all of this off. Okay? Because if you think about it in context, the killing of Soleimani set all of this in motion. Right? And he had posted the same American, he just posted another American flag picture. And he had posted the same exact picture on Truth Social or on Twitter 5 years ago.
Same picture, huh?
Same exact picture. So let's have a real quick conversation about Netanyahu. And I know Jeff's got to go out and take some obs here. He's working, actually, guys. We're about to get as hot as you guys are. I don't like it. I'm about to maybe get 90 degrees at my house. So we actually have a report of a magnitude 5.4 earthquake near Ecuador, the coast of Ecuador. So that's something else.
Not related.
Not related.
I hope.
Yeah.
Jeez. That wouldn't be good.
Let's see what else. Yeah, and now OSINT Aggregator is reporting the Islamic Republic of Iran. The IRIB reports that the 3 nuke sites had been evacuated in advance, and all the enriched uranium stockpiles were moved. There is no risk of radiation leakage because there is no uranium there.
That does make total sense. Don't you agree, Nelson?
I agree. Yeah.
They've had ample time to move out of there, whatever they wanted to. Now some of their more advanced stuff is very hard to move, as far as their actual processing equipment and centrifuges and all that. You just don't pick those up and throw them in a box and move them.
Right.
They're very sensitive equipment.
Right.
So they probably lost a lot of that stuff.
Right.
If in fact it's been damaged. It's not irreplaceable, but it's going to take a long time and a lot of money to replace that kind of stuff, for sure. Big time.
So Morone Air Force Base is having a tanker party, it looks like.
Is that the one in Spain?
No, I think Morone is Italy, right? Or is Morone Spain?
I believe it is Spain.
It's Spain.
Yes, sir.
So that's that's where JD went. Remember that guy that we met up with in Panama?
Yes, he was at Morone.
Yes, he was at Morone. Yeah.
Right. He was.
He was the guy that took us places.
He did.
We won't talk about that
We
don't talk about that on the live stream.
No, we don't.
What went on in Panama stays in Panama.
That's very good.
Okay, so let's see what else. So real quick, let's have we're gonna, one of the things I will do on this channel is you guys will get the real truth. And it's probably not going to be the things that you guys hear a lot about on Fox News or CNN even, or Newsmax or whatever you watch. But one of the reasons why some of the stuff is going on in the Middle East and the way it's happening and why it's happening is, simply put, Netanyahu's a crook. Okay? The man is evil. The man's corrupt. The man's a crook.
He's under investigation for multiple corruption cases going back into the early 2000s.
Yes. And you say this as as one of the tribe.
I do. It is what it is. I mean, I'm not making this up. I mean, he's under indictment for multiple corruption cases. He's actually been testifying in court while this whole thing's been going on.
Right.
Over the last couple of months. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. You know?
Yeah. And one of the ways Bibi has managed to stay in power is by funneling arms to Israel's enemies. I can't. My brain is a little racked right now. But what was one of the things that just literally came out that they had found out recently? They were giving money to ISIS or
They were giving money to Hamas.
Hamas.
Actually.
That's right. Yeah.
And they were yes. They've tried to divide the Palestinian factions between Hamas and Gaza and the Palestinian Authority under Mohammed Abbas.
So listen to this, everybody. You need to hear what's going on in the context. This is true. Now, at any time, guys, listen to me very carefully. At any time you think we're lying to you, fact check us. I have no problem with somebody fact checking. What I do have a problem with is somebody telling me I'm a liar and then storming off. But if you think this is wrong, fact check us. Do you have a problem with somebody fact checking us? Jeff?
No.
Bring it, right?
No, not at all.
Bring it.
Now, if it's my opinion, I'll tell you that. But what we're talking about is actual verifiable facts. You can interpret it however you want, but the facts do not lie if you look into them, and that's just not coming from us. There's many many sources that are out there that people are free to look at and check it out. I mean, there's so many different ways you can kind of verify some of the stuff that we're talking about.
Okay, so explain what was going on.
So the Netanyahu plan all along was to keep both Palestinian factions weak. Kind of divide and conquer, keep your enemies weak. So he actually was funding Hamas to a point to keep them at least in power to a certain degree, while keeping the Palestinian Authority under Abbas also in power, but very weak in the West Bank. He was playing a very dangerous game. And as it turned out, it came back and it bit him right in the butt, as we know, on October 7th of 2023.
Yep. Lawana just sent a... Yep. Go ahead. I'm going to pull up an article.
Played. He got very cute, and he got played. And, talking about that whole situation, you notice you have heard virtually nothing about Gaza.
Right.
In like the last 2 or 3 weeks, even before this, and it makes you wonder what is going on there. You have hostages that are still being held for close to 650 days now. There's still not any kind of real ceasefire, and it makes you wonder what exactly is the end game there. And the problem is there is no end game for the Israelis, Gaza, and that's been the problem all along. And I'm not even getting into that's a whole nother discussion whether they were justified in what they did. Obviously, they were attacked viciously, and they have a right to defend themselves. Right. But where was the end game?
And you and I have talked about that we believe that, he drug it out and he's now entered into this war because he knows as soon as he's not a wartime president or a prime minister anymore, he's got to face the music. Because in the context of the whole Hamas attack was this whole judicial reform they were doing, right, in October of 2024, they were having this judicial reform. There was protests in the streets of Israel, hundreds of thousands of people turning out, protesting that they were doing this judicial reform that was taking away the rights of the people,
Right.
And people were not happy. And then all of a sudden this attack happened, this massive intel failure. But Sister Lawana just sent this, and here it is. So for years, Netanyahu propped up Hamas. Now it's blown up in our faces. This is from the Times of Israel. For years, the various governments led by Benjamin Netanyahu took an approach that divided power between the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, bringing Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas to his knees while making moves that propped up Hamas terror group. Now, so this is the same person who is out there on Fox News when he's getting interviewed, or, and the same people in our government saying, oh, Hamas is so terrible, we got to kill them, we got to destroy them. But yet he's propping them up. And by proxy, so are we, by sending money to them. And then it's getting funneled, right? You guys need to know the picture here. The idea was to prevent Abbas or anyone else in the Palestinian Authority's West Bank government from advancing towards the establishment of a Palestinian state. Thus, amid this bid to impair Abbas, Hamas was upgraded from a mere terror group to an organization which Israel held indirect negotiations via Egypt and allowed to receive infusions of cash from abroad. Hamas was also included in discussions. This is CIA stuff. Okay, which money kept flowing into Gaza, meaning food for families and ability to purchase basic products. Israeli officials said these permits, which allowed Gazan laborers to earn higher salaries. So you guys can go out there and read this. You can find it. It's from the Times of Israel. So this is all verifiable stuff. He was propping them up. It was a divide and conquer thing. But the bottom line is it was to keep from having peace. They didn't want peace. And there's also these groups, and I can't remember the name of it. Some of you guys can look it up. There's Israeli soldiers that dress as Hamas, and they go out there and they shoot their own people to make it look like Hamas is shooting their own people. But it's been proven that it's Israeli soldiers.
I mean, Nelson, we could do a whole hours-long show on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, going back to before 1948 and how we got where we are. It's so complicated and so full of just craziness. I mean, that's a whole nother thing we could delve into at some point for sure.
So Jennifer just had Luana just made a great statement, and Jennifer just had a great question. So, as a Christian, Jennifer said, I think I'm supposed to support the Jews in Israel as God's people. Am I wrong? No, you're not wrong. However, I will address this, Jennifer. I'm going to address it. I won't address this now. Stay tuned. Okay? This is in the Revelation series study. I'll be addressing this. Thank you. We support the people, not their government, Luana. That's right. We support the establishment. We support what they need to be. Okay. And there's also I'm going to get into this when we talk about the 7 churches. There's some stuff that I've learned that we're going to talk about when we talk about the 7 churches, and it has to relate exactly with this. Okay. So just stay tuned. Pray. Just in the meantime, Jennifer, read Romans chapter 10 and 11 and look at how Paul looked at it. Okay. He prayed for the people of Israel to be saved. All right. He prayed for them. All right. Yes. Yeah. So we can't support corruption and evil and those sorts of things. All right. And we don't do that just because they wear a cross or if they wear a Star of David. We don't do it either way. All right. So we'll talk more about that. But Jeff and I have a lot to say about Netanyahu. Not a fan, and he's corrupt. And this all would have been solved a long time ago. But remember, we're going someplace with this. It has to head this way. It just does. It's written. It's a script we're following. And we don't know necessarily all the pieces that are filled in place. Let's see. What else is going on? Let's look at some Drudge. Let's see.
Well, I will say one thing, Nelson. What is going on right now is, this should make you happy. Donald Trump just posted on his @RealDonaldTrump a big giant American flag with no verb.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Will American face retaliations? I think that's what we were just talking. Yeah, this is from The Guardian, so take that for what it's worth.
Well, yes. That's, in my opinion, not a whole lot.
Yeah.
There was something came out of the revolution. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The IRPC affiliated Telegram channel has now declared that we are now at war.
Yeah, that's what I talked about that earlier.
Okay, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for those who don't know, Jeff's on the phone. I've got him on the phone, so sometimes he can hear me and sometimes he can't. So that's a nice picture of an F-15. Let's see here. Okay, this is from the Washington Post. U.S. bases could attack U.S. bases that could attack Iran and become targets. The harm the U.S. will suffer will definitely be irreparable if they enter this conflict. Yeah, but who cares what you say, because you say a lot of stuff.
That coming from the Iranians?
Yeah. You got
Yeah,
Al Assad Air
it's-
Base, of course. Um, you got Al Udeid, yeah, near
If the
Doha.
Houthis, our friends in Yemen have threatened if we did do any strikes on Iran, which we have, that they're going to start targeting U.S. Navy ships again, which would violate the ceasefire they made with us about 2 months ago. I'm curious to see if they start opening up that theater again.
Okay, so Hannity's reporting that we actually use Tomahawks from subs on Isfahan. We use bunker busters on Fordo and Tomahawks on Isfahan and Natanz.
They were hit already though by the.
Right.
I mean, they've been previously struck, so maybe they just wanted to make sure they got everything. I don't know.
And so here's the. You started it, we will finish it.
Who was that gentleman, Nelson?
He was from the IRIB, the Iranian news. Yeah. So, I mean, like you said about, so this is one of the things that's very important, and when you get involved in, you've always got to have like this is the big thing about Iraq, right? What's your end game? You've always, in military tactics, the first question you always ask is, what's our end game? How do we get out? And, what's the end game here? Because you've always got to ask that question, okay, what do we do if? And, that's the question we got to ask ourselves. We know they have hypersonics, and we know we have zero defense against these things. And here's the other thing: we don't know how many they have, because when you don't know they have them, period, you don't know how many they have if you didn't know they had them at all. And so we don't know if they shot them all or if they shot 2% of their arsenal. So. Nearly 10 years ago, the United States and other world powers reached a landmark nuclear agreement with Iran known as the JCPOA. And then it got torn up.
It got torn up, and that's why our credibility in international matters is not very good right now. It can be hard for us to negotiate with anybody. And I think that's why the Iranians really were not, they were...
So here's a montage here.
Globalists want to squander all of America's strength, blood, and treasure, chasing monsters and phantoms overseas. In addition, there must also be a complete commitment to dismantle the entire globalist neocon establishment that is perpetually dragging us into endless wars, pretending to fight for freedom and democracy abroad. We should have never gone into the Middle East. Under my leadership, we will turn the page forever on those foolish, stupid days of never-ending wars. We're rebuilding our military stronger than ever before, and we are not going to deplete it again on stupid, senseless, endless wars. World War III has never been closer than it is right now. We need to clean house of all of the warmongers and America last globalists and the deep state. I am the president who delivers peace. I was the first president in decades who didn't start a war. And the worst, most incompetent, most corrupt president in history is going to drag us into World War III. And this horrible, horrible president is dragging us toward World War III. We're going to be in World War III soon. Because I think we would have been good with Iran. I don't want to do anything bad to Iran. Large sections of the Middle East. I mean, look at the death and destruction that's taken place. And none of this would have happened if I were president. Our opponents join with warmongers and neocons to wage endless wars, these wars that never end. Together we're fighting to secure our borders, end the endless foreign wars, and defend the working people of America. But the Muslim and Arab voters in Michigan and across the country want a stop to the endless wars and a return to peace in the Middle East. That's all they want. Speaking of World War III, I'll keep you out of World War III. What would happen if we had a war? We won't, with me, but you will have World War III, I believe, without me, but we won't have. I will be sure that World War III will not happen. I'm the only one can say it won't happen. But I stand here today, and I'm the only candidate who can make this promise. I will prevent, and very easily, World War III. Very easily.
Yeah, I'm gonna look up one other thing here. Where is it here? Iran 2 months. Let's see. I'll play this.
Israeli Defense Minister Benny Gantz.
No, that's not it. Hey, I want to ask somebody out there in the Luana or Jennifer, if you can find me a YouTube clip, somebody find me a YouTube clip of a montage of people saying that Iran is only 2 months or weeks away of from getting a nuclear weapon. Somebody do that for me.
Said a lot.
Yeah, there's
Yahoo, I saw a montage of him going back to, I think, 95 or 96.
yeah, it's that long.
The exact subject.
Yeah, now Fox is reporting, BGM 109 Tomahawks, T-LAMs. Well, what we definitely need to do is pray for our troops that are in harm's way. Absolutely. You know,
they don't get to vote on these kinds of things.
No, you and I never got to vote. We got told. Right. We called that voluntold. We got voluntold to be here. We never asked to. We asked to when we enlisted and re-enlisted, and so those guys and those men and women there, pray for them tonight. Pray for them. Okay, let's see.
Absolutely.
Okay, here we go. I think. Let's see. Thanks, Luana.
If not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months.
They have the wherewithal, the stored up, preserved knowledge to make a bomb very quickly if they wanted to do it.
Iran is so dangerous.
I don't know why it's doing this, but
having the fissile material for an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs.
They're very close. They're 6 months away from being about 90% of having the enriched uranium for an atom bomb. Iran is gearing up to produce 25 bombs, atomic bombs a year, 250 bombs in a decade.
Ladies and gentlemen, time is running out.
Iran will be capable of producing alone, without importing anything, nuclear bombs within 3 to 5 years.
If not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months.
They have the wherewithal, the stored up.
What's your message to Americans both here and abroad who are not only concerned about the U.S. potentially getting involved in another conflict in the Middle East, but worry about the potential for retaliation here at home?
Yeah, well, I don't want to get involved either, but I've been saying for 20 years, maybe longer, that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I've been saying it for a long time. And I think they were a few weeks away from having one. And they had to sign a document. I think they wish they signed it now. It was a fair deal. And now it's a harder thing to sign, you know, it's a lot of water over the dam. But, you know, it's very, I say it very simply, Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. Too much devastation. And they'd use it, you know, I believe they'd use it. Others won't use it, but I believe they'd use it. So that's it, it's very simple as far as I'm concerned. They can't have a nuclear weapon.
So there you have it. They have been a few weeks away since 1995. What do you say?
Yep.
What do you say to that? They've literally been a few weeks away, and you heard it. Matter of fact, here, let's watch it. Tulsi. There we go.
Continues to seek expansion of its influence in the Middle East, despite the degradation to its proxies and defenses during the Gaza conflict. Iran has developed and maintains ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and UAVs, including systems capable of striking U.S. targets and allies in the region. Tehran has shown a willingness to use these weapons, including during a 2020 attack on U.S. forces in Iraq and in attacks against Israel in April and October 2024. Iran's cyber operations and capabilities also present a serious threat to U.S. networks and data. The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003. The IC continues to monitor closely if Tehran decides to reauthorize its nuclear weapons program. In the past year, we've seen an erosion of a decades-long taboo in Iran on discussing nuclear weapons in public, likely emboldening nuclear weapons advocates within Iran's decision-making apparatus. Iran's enriched uranium stockpile is at its highest levels and is unprecedented for a state without nuclear weapons. Iran will likely continue efforts to counter Israel and press for U.S. military withdrawal from the region by aiding, arming, and helping to reconstitute its loose consortium of like-minded terrorists and militant actors.
Okay, so there were her words. They're enriching more than any non-nuke people, but they're not pursuing.
Right.
So that's what she said. And now that, you know, people, the neocons, which is what they are, the warmongers, which you heard Trump rail against, they got to him. And the Lindsey Grahams, the Tom Cottons, all of those guys. The Huckabees, the Hegseths, all of them. But, you know, let's put this back to what this whole channel is about, TOG, Times of the Gentiles. It has to be this way, you know, from my point of view, it has to be this way. This is not happening in a vacuum. So let me, I know it's not going to show up on the screen here, but I've got to, let me pull something up here, and then hopefully I can get it set. All right. Let's see here. Daniel. Chapter 4. Now, let me. All right. Well, that's way small. Let me see here. All right. Let's look at this together, guys. All right. So, let's look at the book of Daniel. and then we'll come back to the news. All right, but let's look at the book of Daniel here. Okay? So Daniel's interpreting the dream, okay, for Nebuchadnezzar. And this is what we have to remember when we're talking about these matters. He says, Daniel tells him, he says, Your Majesty, God Most High has sent you this message. And it means, yet you, so you were going to be forced to live like the wild animals. You got to remember who Nebuchadnezzar was. He's the king of Babylon, one of the greatest empires to ever have lived on this planet, to ever have existed on this planet. The Babylonian Hanging Gardens were one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Okay, Saddam Hussein was trying to reconstitute ancient Babylon. He was obsessed by it. All right, you can go on Google Earth right now and type in Babylon, and you can actually go see some of the ancient ruins, because Saddam Hussein reconstituted some of it. And we're going to actually talk about, when we get to Babylon, Luana sent a picture. Is this a Babylon? Oh, yeah, well, she sent a picture of it. Okay, good. Yeah, so we're going to talk about Babylon a lot, all right? And we're going to talk about Babel a lot in our Bible studies. Nebuchadnezzar was a very proud man. There's a lot of parallels where we are now, all right? He was a great man, but he was a proud man. And he got to being cocky, looking at his everythings, and said, look at how good I am. That also had happened about 150 years prior to a certain king in Israel. He had showed the king of Babylon his wherewithals, and he said, yeah, look at all my cool stuff. And Hezekiah had just been, I think it was Hezekiah, had just been healed. And the king of Babylon had come, and at that time Babylon was nothing, and the king of Babylon had come and said, hey, Hezekiah, I heard you'd been sick. He goes, yeah, I was almost dead, but I'm better now. He goes, look at all my cool stuff. And the king of Babylon went, boy, that's a lot of gold you guys got here. And Isaiah came back and said, why did you do that, you fool? And Hezekiah said, I think it was Isaiah, I can't remember, I'm a little fuzzy right now, but Hezekiah said, made one of the stupidest statements I'd ever seen in the Bible. He said, well, it won't be in my time. It'll be in my grandchildren's time when Babylon comes and raids and destroys my country, but it won't be in my time. I know I'll die. How selfish. So here we are now. Babylon has destroyed Judah. It's taken them captive. Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are some of the captives. And now Daniel is telling him, you will be forced to live with the wild animals, far away from humans. You will eat grass like a wild animal and live outdoors. Because, see, Nebuchadnezzar had this dream, and he didn't understand it, so Daniel's interpreted to him, just like Joseph did for Pharaoh. Until you learn that God Most High controls all earthly kingdoms and chooses their rulers. You hear that? You hear what I'm saying? God controls all earthly kingdoms. So when he is speaking at this time, you need to understand what he's saying. He's controlling that kingdom that is thriving over there in China. He's controlling that kingdom at this time that is thriving over there in Japan. He is controlling these kingdoms that nobody even knew about there in Australia, full of Aboriginal people, that no one at this time even knew that was down there in South America. That was a kingdom. There were kingdoms. There were going to be Aztecs and other, nations and great people that nobody was going to discover at this time for, another almost 1,500 years, 2,000 years. But God still controls them for his purpose, and that's what's happening now. Okay? And we see this. We see Nebuchadnezzar is humiliated, and then Nebuchadnezzar comes to his senses. He said, finally, I prayed to the God of heaven, and my mind was healed. Then I said, I praise and honor God Most High. He lives forever, and his kingdom will never end. So at this point, Nebuchadnezzar goes from being a pagan worshiper, worshiping his little gods, his little idols of Babylonian heresy. To him, the nations are far less than nothing. Do you understand that? This country is that so many of you are willing to get in the street and fight for and cuss people out for, and all the things that some people do, and you're, golly, it's far less than nothing. You understand that? God had one country that was the apple of his eye, and that's the nation of Israel. All of this revolves around that. We have not replaced them either. Okay? He's got a journey that we're going on, and that's why this is happening now. Whether it's great, whether some people are neocons and warmongers and we got to do it, we got to stop them from getting a nuke, or you're the other side of this was a stupid, why did we do this? No, because it had to be done, because God controls, as he says, the stars in the sky. God controls everyone on this earth. When God sees something, we cannot change it or even ask why. Think about that. And here we are. And that's the reason why this channel is here. Because we're going to speculate why people are doing the things that they're doing, but I'm not going to sit there and tell them they're wrong or right. Because I know the real reason why this is happening. Because God is saying it's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. He declared the end from the beginning. And everything, and Jeff knows me. He knows I've been talking about this stuff since when? 88? A long time. A long time. A long time. And it's happening now. And at that time, my mind was healed, and once again, I became the ruler of my glorious kingdom. My advisors and officials returned to me, and I had greater power than ever before. That's why I say, Nebuchadnezzar, see, this is the chapter he wrote. Nebuchadnezzar wrote this. That's why I say, praise and honor the King who rules from heaven! Exclamation point. Everything he does is honest and fair. Oh, wow. Listen to that. Everything he does is honest and fair. Even what's going on now is honest and fair. And he can shatter the power of those who are proud. Case closed. Case closed. He can shatter the power of those who are proud. So the reason why all this is happening, so Brett Marcellus, he's a liberal, and he just said, Trump just put a target on our troops' backs. Well, you know what? That's true. But at the same time, this is what we do as troops. And let me go ahead and try to get my window size back down. Whenever you change sources, guys, it really messes with your windows. So let me got anything you want to add?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just read something that is, to me, is extremely disturbing. This is from Faye Tuck's News, supposedly through CNN. It says, top Democrats on intelligence committees were not briefed on the strikes. Oh. Only Republicans were.
No.
And if that's true,
that's bad.
That's terrible. That is ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. Now, see, I have a real problem with that.
A huge problem.
Yeah.
Huge problem. Now, I'm not saying that this is true.
Yeah. Right. We got to validate that. So that would be what we call in the military rumor intelligence.
Right. But if it's true,
then that's
It is
unsatisfactory.
Totally unsatisfactory.
So, real quick, guys, for those of you who are still in the politics of it all, okay? And by what I mean politics of it all, those of you who are still, you're still in the Republican camp or you're still in the Democrat camp, okay? What I need you to do is every time you hear something like this, so let's just, I'm just going to say hypothetically, and I don't like the picture that's up because this is Dr. Eli David. He's very pro-Israel, and but he does sometimes do good intelligence. So this is a good view of Fordo. So we're going to be talking. There's a channel. There's a section of the channel coming up called the Pendulum Swing. And we're going to be going into a lot of hypotheticals on the pendulum swing. Now, what I need you guys to understand is when you hear things like this, and the natural reaction, if you're in the Republican camp still and you're very pro-Trump or whatever, you probably go, well, good. What I need you guys to get out of that, okay, just like I tried to get people out of that in the Democrat camp during the Biden years, is I need you to always ask the question, well, what if it was the other way around? You always need to ask that question. Because, see, that's how you get out of your bias. That's how you get out of your echo chamber. That's how you start to see the world in a neutral light that helps you to see what's really happening. Because as some of us have talked about, when the pendulum shift happens, and it will happen, it always happens in this country, if the Lord doesn't come back and the pendulum shift happens, it's going to be so severe. And then what happens when a Democratic president or a socialist president or whoever starts running the show, and then they attack and then they shut out all the Republicans? Are you going to go, well, good, they should have? Well, we did it to them, so yeah. No, you're not. And you know you're not. Because then that's hypocrisy. And if you want to say, okay, I'm fine, I was a hypocrite, that's fine. Only caveat I have is don't call yourself a Christian. Please do not lump me in with you. Okay? Stop calling yourself a Christian if you're going to do that stuff. Because that's not what Christ does. That's all I ask. Because if you do, I'll call you out. And if I do that, you can call me out, right? Is that not right? Is that not our deal, Jeff?
That's our deal.
That's our deal.
Sure is.
That's our deal. We be truthful. All right. So, yeah, here it is. Dems left out. Trump only briefed GOP ahead of strikes on Iran. Sources say Tom Cotton and Rick Crawford got early updates from the White House ahead of the U.S. strikes on Iran. But key Democratic leaders weren't briefed at all. Jim Hines and Mark Warner were shut out entirely.
Wow. That's disturbing and outrageous, in my opinion. This is my opinion.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, again,
What is that?
I always say then, hey, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So when it happens in reverse, I don't want to hear any complaining.
So much for
There's going to be a lot of stuff happen in reverse in 2 years and 4 years. So, and it's going to be way worse, but it's going to be along the same playbook. And I don't want to hear any complaining because it's all going to be legal according to what we've been doing. So, and it's going to be so bad. And I don't want to hear any complaining because I haven't heard any complaining yet. People have no idea what's coming. So let's see. Wait. What? No. What? This is not right. This can't be right. Are you seeing this? Could somebody do some fact checking on this for me? That Enrique Tarrio has become an ICE raid czar to lead Web3 criminal enforcement app. Because that can't be possible. Am I still on?
Yes, you
Okay.
are.
Okay. Yeah, that doesn't seem right. I hope that's not true. All right, let's see. Let's see if we got any new interesting things going on, and then I'm probably going to end it here pretty soon. Well, I don't know. We got. I guess we could hang on for about another 30 minutes. See what he says.
Yeah, I'm going to have to, Nelson, I'm going to have to vacate in about 10 minutes or so.
All right.
But it's been great being on the show up to this point with this breaking news. This will.
Let's see. Jump to present. Let's see. Let's see here. Iran. Let's see if there's any later news here. U.S. President confirmed entering. Okay, so. An hour ago, air defenses in Ifshan and Kashan began operating to counter strikes. That's the same stuff we saw. Yeah, not a lot of. There's 30. They said it was 30 T-lambs.
Right, 30 tomahawks used. And according to what I'm looking at, Natanz and Isfahan were about 75% destroyed by the Israeli airstrikes, and 30 tomahawks totally finished the job, according to Fox News sources. So they've been totally taken out.
Gotcha. I'm gonna bookmark this to save it for later. Okay.
You know what's interesting to me? I've been glancing at some of the comments from some of these posts that I see, and I don't know. In my opinion, so many people don't really understand what's going on. It's just like it's a football game or something.
Right.
It's amazing to me. And some of the biggest and baddest comments, I'm sure, are for people who have no skin in the game or never had skin in the game.
Never had skin. They never served. Well, from what I've found, comments over the past, they've never served. They've never yeah. Iranian state television says every American citizen or military personnel in the region is now a target. So, but that's.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see what happens.
Here, let's see what this article says. You got to be kidding me.
Nothing would shock me, Nelson.
That's unbelievable.
Speak on it, my brother.
Enrique Tarrio, he's the ICE raid czar. He leads a coalition of former Proud Boy members. Joseph Biggs, Zaki Real, Ethan Nardin, and Dominique Pizzola. Dominique Pizzola, for those of you who buy into these conspiracies that the cops let the rioters in to the Capitol, this is again facts. Dominique Pizzola was the individual who beat and stole a riot shield from a police officer, then took that riot shield, broke out a window in the Capitol, allowing people to enter the window in the Capitol. You can see it on security camera. They then walked around to a door that was right next to that window and opened the door. Those were the first people into the Capitol building. It was Dominique Pizzola that did that. Okay? Y'all need to look up who Enrique Tarrio is and realize he is now working for your government. This is why we will have private videos, because I bet my turkey popper is red, Jeff, on the back of my neck.
Maybe.
My birthmark. Jeff's seen it only a couple of times.
What capacity is he employed at? I'm just curious.
He's an ice raid czar.
Oh, okay. Wow.
I am committed to ensuring ice raid becomes a powerful tool for communities to uphold the rule of law and make America safe again.
My goodness, that's all I can say.
I may stroke out.
As a former law enforcement officer, that bothers me even more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God help us. So, woe to them who call good evil and evil good. Woe to them. And woe to them who helped enable this. Wicked. According to Iranian media, no irreversible damage was done to the Fordo facility. The strikes targeted only an entry and exit tunnels of the complex.
Okay.
Well,
I got a bridge to sell you, so Nelson, here's some breaking news that might be interesting. During his address tonight, Trump is expected to say that he is not, I say again, not currently planning any additional strikes inside Iran. Multiple senior White House officials told NBC News. Interesting. That's one of the big questions I had. Is this a one-off?
Right.
Maybe it is.
Maybe it
Let's
is.
see what he has to say.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he may be wanting to get out ahead of any retaliation to try to tell him and maybe there's some back channel stuff going on saying, hey, we fulfilled our obligation to BB. Please don't do this. You know, let's call it, you know, can we talk now? And who knows what we really attacked, you know,
True enough.
And when we're talking, and when we were talking earlier, I mean, the skeptics, I mean, the skepticism was already there. Could we even, I mean, do it with these bombs? You know, so, I mean, you know, you and I had this conversation, and I'll let everybody else in on the conversation. And granted, Fordo is not the Cheyenne Mountain Complex. It's not. But, you know, you've never been in the mountain. I've been in the mountain. I've been in the Cheyenne Mountain Complex. And you could hit it with bunker busters all day long. It was not going. And now, granted, you could destroy the entrance. All right. And you could have trapped us in there. We were not going to get out. But we had enough food to stay in there for years, so who cared? I mean, it was big enough inside there to play a full game of football. You know? I mean, but at the same time, you know, depending on the tunnels and all of that stuff and how they built it, you and I, you know, we were talking earlier that they probably built it with knowing that one day it was going to be attacked, you know, by some pretty big, powerful ordnance. And who knows, they might have built it knowing that or believing maybe that Israel might even throw tactical nukes at it.
I was just going to say that the Israelis could have taken this thing out
Right.
themselves with a tactical nukes.
Right.
They
So
have the capability.
right. So they probably built this thing with that in mind. So, you toss a 1 KT, a 2 KT tactical nuke at a thing, and that's way bigger than a 30,000 pound, which is, a conventional bomb. So they might have developed, they might have built this thing to be able to withstand that. So, of course, these things are penetrators, and they react differently, and maybe they probably, one after another did.
Yeah, really did.
So, well, bro, I'm glad you joined us. I will stay on for a little while longer till he gives his speech, and then I'll call it a night.
Nelson, it's been a pleasure, and I wish all of our viewers and listeners a good and safe night, and God bless.
All right, brother. Well, God bless you, and you have a safe trip home, and tell everybody in Houston, Tejas, we say hello.
All right.
All right.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Speak
Love
soon.
you. Love you,
Bye-bye.
brother. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Okay, man.
All right. I want to thank Jeff for joining us. Thank him for all that expertise and that knowledge. It comes from over 40 years of serving this country in uniform in one capacity or another. And so we really, really want to thank him. Thank you, Jeff. And Jeff says that was awesome, and we agree. That was awesome. So, all right. So we will stay on until the president speaks at 10 o'clock if he's on time. He does have a tendency to be a little late. So Jennifer says, thanks for the insight, Jeff. We really do appreciate it. So there is no reversible damage at the Fordo site. Jennifer Griffin, who is a reporter for Fox News, says well-placed sources tell me that Isfahan and its underground facility was probably a harder target than Fordo. So that's interesting. Washington Post is reporting that Donald Trump campaigned on a desire to not start any wars, and he has attacked previous presidents for U.S. involvement in the Middle East. But of course now has now attacked. And of course Mark Levin, who is now saying that President just prevented World War III. No, he didn't. Wrong. Now, so this is one of the things that I've always tried to caution Christians on, followers of Christ. When you listen to people like Ben Shapiro, you listen to people like Mark Levin, you listen to any of these, Sean Hannity, okay? Sean Hannity is not a believer, all right? He's not. If you've ever listened to his theology, he says he's a Christian, but he's not. He's a false Christian. There's many of them out there, all right? They don't have biblical theology. Levin's not a believer at all. He doesn't claim to follow Christ. Neither does Ben Shapiro. So they've got worldly knowledge. They've got knowledge. Yes. All right. Good to see you, sister. God bless you, and you have a blessed night. I'm glad you were able to join us. So, they have worldly knowledge. They don't have biblical knowledge. So when he says they just prevented World War III, he doesn't know what he's talking about. First of all, there will be no World War III. There's going to be Armageddon, right? So nobody's going to prevent World War III. So here we have Trump tweeting out, let's quest for Iran's quest for nuclear weapons a major threat, and we can't allow them to go nuclear. That was back in November of 2011. Okay, November of 2011, he put that out. All right, U.S. is drawing down additional personnel from diplomatic mission in Iraq. In other words, we're getting our diplomats out. That's a typical. Normally, we start doing that before we attack, and I think we had already started that process. I remember some news reports we had already started getting the people out, but now it looks like we're starting to get even more people out. Netanyahu thanks Trump, said we acted with a lot of strength. U.S. is drawing down additional personnel. This is we're about 10 minutes away now. Actually, this is he says in about 15 minutes now. So again, we're going to be 5 minutes late, which means we're going to be 10 minutes late. So let's go. Let's see here. Let's go back to our Intel spec and see. This is recruitment, showing how bad recruitment's gotten. Yeah. Had a big spike and then irreversible losses. Yeah, a lot of recruitment losses. U.S. and allies have found over 100 mines in the Black Sea. And that's this is Russian. Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. Speculation here. Let's see. Nothing new, guys. Nothing new. Yeah, so Jeff raises a really good question. You know, now that we have quote unquote denied them, even Netanyahu is now saying that, acted to deny the world's most dangerous regime, nuclear weapons here. Do they stop? Okay, so here's some footage of Tomahawks being launched. Oh, these are striking. I'm sorry. The nuclear facility. That is one thing about when you do hit a place that really has no internet capability and there's nothing. There's no news or anything coming out. You really don't get a whole lot of breaking news or something to cover. Like what was happening in Israel, or what was if we have a hurricane coming in or something like that, where you're just getting flooded with data, flooded with news.
These bunker busting bombs and how it sort of like burrows into the ground, these 30,000-pound explosive devices. Can you talk more about how that would work in this sort of situation and what it specifically needs to get to in the ground?
Yeah, some people may say, well, wait a minute, the B-2 is a stealth bomber. It goes in where you have very heavy air defenses, where enemy radars would be able to see it. And so why is it being used in Iran when we know that the Israelis have taken down all of the air defense systems? That's because this MOP, this hardened penetrator that can go up to 200 feet below the ground, can only be carried by the B-2. So the B-52 has carried it before, but the weapon system itself is only certified to fly on the B-2. So this is why the B-2s had to go in to use these bunker-busting bombs. So the whole idea is that of the 30,000 pounds, only 5,000 pounds are explosives. Most of it is a very hardened case because it has to punch through rock and dirt, and it has to push all that force down many layers. It actually has a fuse that can sense going through various layers. And so the idea here is that they've got to collapse those big, massive halls that we've actually seen pictures with because the IAEA's been in there. Collapse these halls and collapse dirt on top of these centrifuges that were enriching uranium to a weapons quality capability. So it's a bomb that was developed originally. Most of the impetus was for the North Korean threat, because remember that the North Koreans also have very deeply buried capabilities in their nuclear sites, and so the U.S. said, well, we think that if we need to use this, that North Korea may be the first place we need to use it. We don't want the Kim regime to be able to continue to develop more nuclear weapons. But then they knew that Fordo was there as well. So really the only two places in the world where this weapon is appropriate and where the U.S. or any other country would need to use a hardened penetrator would be in North Korea or Iran.
Interesting. I hope you guys enjoyed that, because I did. So it's interesting. So Christian Welker has spoken to the president in a brief phone call. He said the operation in Iran was a great success. He added it was a complete and total success, then noted he had to go because he was about to make a speech about it. We're gonna, let me see, maybe where I can find that. I'm assuming that is a picture of one of the GBU 57s going off. I'm assuming. So let me see here. I'm trying to find where the speech is going to be carried live, guys. In fact, if anybody's still on Project Shofar watching it, and if you can find a live stream, if you could send that to me. I don't know if it'll be on C-SPAN or just somewhere where I can stream it. Here we go. I found it. All right. Now we got a lot to talk about going on in the world. We got tariffs still. We got supply chain issues. Let's see what's this.
Sometimes phones mid-live shot as getting more information about what has transpired here. Jennifer, thoughts?
Well, Brett, I think, yes, so my phone has been literally ringing off the hook. But what I would say is that it's notable how much deception was involved in this operation. All eyes were looking west towards Guam, and the B-2s that took off late last night towards Guam.
We just talked about
possible
this.
but if the distance there would suggest that the B-2s may have also flown east from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri. Remember, the air refuelers, many of them were placed in Europe and across the Middle East, and that is what is known as an air refueling bridge. And all of those B-2s would require much air refueling in order to make it they usually fly round trip from Whiteman. And so what we can say, and the president said this in his Truth Social post, is that a full payload of bombs, those massive ordnance penetrators, the 30,000-pound bunker buster bombs, were dropped at Fordo. And as we have reported, there are 2 entrances to Fordo. So at least 2 bombs at each 2 entrances, which suggests at least 2 B-2s were involved.
Oh, sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
The Pentagon, I know,
was looking west for the B-2s flying towards Guam, that in fact there was another package of squadron of B-2s that were flying east from Whiteman. It's about a 15-hour trip from Whiteman in Missouri to the Middle East, to Iran, and those bombers often fly round trip, and it takes them about 30 hours to get home. But they are out of danger tonight. They are not in Iranian airspace anymore, according to the press.
Okay, guys, so I had seen this in the OSINT channel, and this looks like it's about to start. I had seen this in the OSINT channel, in the aviation channel. Right up here. Where was it? There was a gentleman who had stated he lived east of Whiteman and had seen a flight of B-9s, I'm sorry, B-2s, a flight of 9 B-2s fly over his house east of Whiteman. I'm not going to be able to find it, but I saw it on here, and it didn't make sense at the time because we were seeing these flights out on the west that they were, and so this flight that was flying east, nobody was talking about. They were not on the transponders. They were nobody was the transponders for the refuelers were not on. But the transponders for the B-2s and the refuelers were on flying west. But this guy, and I wish I could find it for you guys. I know it's in here somewhere. But they were talking about it. I mean, the one thing you can't hide is somebody's eyes. You can't hide somebody seeing it. With their own eyes, and unless you can shut down the internet, you can't hide somebody saying, "Hey, I just saw 9 B-2s fly over my house, and they are not flying west; they're flying east." So, let's see. No, I can't find it, but trust me, it was there, guys. So apparently that is exactly what happened. They were flying 2 different routes. So it was a true head fake. All right, we're still waiting. Hey, I'm going to be about right up. That's going to be a pretty close game. Here, let's.
Natanz.
Okay, here we go. Here we go, guys. I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
Thank you very much. A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raisen-Kane, spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say, we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them. God bless the Middle East. God bless Israel, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry I was a little late there, guys. I really am. I guess it was frozen up. So I'm about to end this, but I want to just comment on a few things here. We'll wrap it up where we always do with Scripture. But let's talk about where this is going. All right, and I will get to a scripture here, and then we're actually in the same book. I don't know why it wants to resize it every time, but that's okay. We'll make do. All right. And let's see here. All right. y'all probably knew I was going to come over here. So, where are we headed with this? Where are we headed? I think you guys know. So, Trump doesn't have a biblical worldview either. Hegseth has the wrong biblical worldview. And we will, as we get into the book of Revelation study and we get into some of these other studies, we will talk about the different worldviews. Okay, we're going to talk about what are the different ways to interpret Scripture, prophetic Scripture. And you're going to find out that some of the things that are driving the things going on right now is dominionism, post-millennialism, reconstructionism, and some of these words may not mean anything to you right now, but they will. And what you're going to find out is there's a Christian theology that is driving this. I'm going to borrow this from another brother, but they think they can trick God into the end times. That's really what it is. They believe they can trick God into coming back. But what they don't understand is they're just part of the plan. And that's literally what's happening. They believe that they can trick God into starting the second coming happening, and it's called Project Esther, and there's a whole lot that goes into this. But where is this all headed? So we have all of these major players involved right now in the Middle East, and all of the prophetic players are on the chessboard, and they're all in position. They're all right in the same positions that you read about in the prophetic Scripture. And we see here that let me get over to let me see. Here we go. We see that 70 weeks are decreed upon thy people and upon the holy city to finish transgression, to make an end of sins, to make reconciliation for iniquity, and to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up vision and prophecy, and anoint the most holy. So this is basically to bring in the millennial kingdom. We've got the 70 weeks, and we're going to talk about all this and where it all is. Know therefore and discern from going forth commandment to restore and build Jerusalem, the anointed one, the prince, shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks, that's 69 weeks. And it shall be built again in the street and the moat, and even in troubled times. And after 62 weeks, after that 69 weeks, the anointed one will be cut off. That's Jesus Christ. Have nothing, and we know, and we're going to talk about this. This is the actual most accurate, fulfilled prophecy in Scripture to the actual day. And I can't remember the actual number of days. It's like 170,000 or 169,000. But it's actually to the literal day from the decree of Cyrus till Jesus enters Jerusalem, to the day. And in order to prove this wrong, these liberal scholars, these liberal Bible scholars, have actually had to just say that Daniel wasn't written when it was written, that it was written, after Jesus was born and after Jesus died, because this thing is so accurate. Well, the problem with that is it's included in the Septuagint. It was included in the Greek Old Testament 300 BC. You got a little bit of a problem there, and it's also been discovered in the Qumran caves. So you got another big problem there. It's still a prophecy, even because even if they knew when Cyrus decreed, they didn't know when Jesus was going to enter. So this is a prophecy predicting the Messiah, and it's now predicting the end of the world, because he shall make a firm covenant. We're going to get into the Hebrew. We're also going to get into the Greek Septuagint, because this is a little bit of a caveat for some of you when you're interpreting Old Testament Scripture. Should you just use the Hebrew, or should you use the Greek? Well, I use both. And here's the reason why. Because Jesus Christ himself anointed the Septuagint, because he quoted from the Septuagint more than he quoted from the Aramaic or the Hebrew. So, because when you compare quotes from Jesus, what you see is he's a lot of times quoting the Septuagint. All right. So when you really want to kind of get into what is being said here, and when we're going to look at Daniel 9:27, we're going to look at it from the Septuagint angle, the Greek Old Testament, and from the Hebrew angle. And we're going to look at it from both sides to really see what is being said here. So he, the Antichrist, is going to make this firm covenant with many for 1 week, for a period of 7 years, 7 Hebrew years, not 7 American years. All right. And in the middle of that week, in the very middle, 1,260 days into it, he's going to cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. He's going to cause this reinstituted temple worship system that's going to be part of this peace treaty to stop. And he's going to desolate the temple, and Jesus talks about that, remember, in the New Testament. And then, even until the end, that is determined, that wrath then is going to be poured out upon the desolator, all right, the desolate. So we know where this is headed. We know that all of this is headed to a decreed end, and it has to get built up so tense and so tight. So it doesn't really matter. Were they 2 weeks away for 30 years? Or were they really a matter of 2 weeks away and we really had to do this? Or did we really not have to do it? Like the Marjorie Taylor Greene say, and the Bannon say, and every single Democrat says. Here's the point I need you to walk away from this tonight. Look at me and listen to me carefully. It does not matter. Okay? Don't spend your time fussing and fighting about that. Okay? My peace I give to you. My peace I leave with you, Jesus said. Okay? Not that the world gives, because the world is not going to give you peace in all this craziness. All it's going to do is get you involved in political discussions on the line or on your Facebook page where you're going to say to somebody, hey, we've been saying for 30 years that they're going to get the bomb, and and Tulsi Gabbard even said that they didn't have it. Or you're going to say, but are you willing to risk your grandchildren's life with an Iranian nuke, you idiot? Look, we know for a fact that was never going to happen, because guess what? It's not written in the book, right? It's going to work out that way, right? We know where this is going, right? We know who holds tomorrow. We know who holds the future. And that's what we've got to do here. We've got to trust the one who takes us to this place, all right? Who takes us to the scriptures. So I want you to leave with that. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to close this stream. I thank you guys for being with me. This is the first time we've done this. I've never done this before. Please send me some suggestions. Send me some news sources. Maybe you guys, I really enjoy the links you guys sent. We probably need a way. Maybe Bobby can think of a way, my tech guru, we can think of a way to data dump some things to keep me up to date, like a moderator. Maybe we can figure that out. But this is what I want to do. Let's close in prayer. Just bow your hearts and lift your heads. Father, we just praise you. We praise you and we thank you. You are a wonderful God. Father, you knew what was going to happen tonight before we even got up this morning. And you hold tomorrow in your hand. Father, give us peace. I pray right now, Father, for all my brothers and sisters. Father, I pray you give them peace. I pray you impart peace to them tonight. Through the power of your Holy Spirit, give them peace. Father, my brother John, who is away from his family, give him peace. Father, my sisters that were on the chat tonight with me, and I appreciate their comfort. Give him peace. My brother Jeff, Father, give him peace. My precious wife, my precious daughter, my precious sons, my daughters-in-law, and my precious granddaughter, Lord, give them peace. Give us your protection. And Lord, we worship you. My God, we thank you. Father, we thank you that our eyes can see the things that your people have longed to see for 2,000 years. We lift up our head. We straighten up, for our redemption draweth nigh. And we love you. We thank you. Forgive us, Lord, when we're not thankful for all that you've done for us. You are faithful. We thank you for who you are. Father, I pray for my cousin's wife who's in Houston with her mom. I pray for healing. And I pray for peace. And for those of you out there who have prayer requests, send them to me at nelson@ahf-i.com or put them on Facebook and we'll pray for you. We want to pray. We need to lift each other up in prayer more than ever now. Let's pray for each other. Father, I pray for my brothers and sisters overseas who deal with this kind of stress on a daily basis. We lift them up. I lift up Brother Lawland to you and his family and his needs. We praise you. In Jesus' name, amen. Brothers and sisters, it was good hanging out with you tonight. If things change, I'll at least put it out on WhatsApp and Facebook. And until next time, may God richly bless you.